Saturday View with Ronan Berry. With thanks to Lumcloon Energy, pioneering innovation, powering progress. LumcloonEnergy.com. Call 0818 300 103. Text or WhatsApp your Saturday View to 083 3010 103.
Well, it's Saturday the 15th of February and you're listening to the Saturday View with me, Sally-Ann Barrett, this morning. Coming up on the show here today, a new campaign gets underway to get Ireland voting. What's the greatest love story ever told? This Valentine's weekend we'll be hearing about the books that could make the list and the cultural side of the GAA and how you can get involved. Well, a very good morning to you and you are welcome to the show. It is me, Sally-Ann Barrett, sitting in for Ronan Berry this weekend. Do not fret, he will be back with you again next weekend as planned. But I will say to you this morning, while it is in my mind, that we have a very special programme coming up on Saturday the 8th of March here on Midlands 103. I'll be back taking over the Saturday View for what is International Women's Day. And I'd like a little bit of your input this morning, if you wouldn't mind, to help me to try and put that show together. Because if you have any ideas or any opinions on great women from the Midlands that maybe we should speak about on the programme that morning, or if there's musicians or poets or anybody within Laois, Offaly and Westmeath that you think would be good to feature on the programme that day, I would really appreciate your input. How do you let me know that? Well, you can phone us now where Nellie is waiting to take your call. That's on 0818 300 103. You can text or WhatsApp us directly here in studio this morning on 083 30 10 103. That is, of course, powered by the home of Offaly's top-selling car brand, Lamb Brothers Toyota, Arden Road, Tullamore. Now, we're with you here this morning until 11 and we have a very busy show, lots to get through, so let's get straight down to it. Because do you vote? And if not, why not? Well, that is one of the key questions that a new campaign is hoping to answer as a new push to get more of us engaged with Ireland's democratic system gets underway. Now, in the last general election, turnout among voters dropped to about 59.7%, a slide of almost 3.2% on the general election back in February of 2020. Now, on Comisiún Tábhachtán, the Electoral Commission is looking for ideas from you, the voter, on how to turn those statistics around. Well, I'm delighted to be joined on the programme this morning by Sarah Keaveney, who is the Head of Education and Engagement with An Comisiún Tábhachtán, and she's also a Portlaoise resident. Good morning, Sarah.
Good morning, Sally-Ann. Thanks so much for having us on.
Not at all. So I suppose a good place to start with this, Sarah, from what you've seen so far, what do you believe are the issues that you're hoping this new campaign may be able to address?
I mean, we have very clear goals, Sally-Ann, and what we're trying to do with this campaign. We want all those who are eligible to vote to be on the electoral register. We want people to understand how to vote and how their vote works. And we want everyone on the register to vote in all electoral events. So not just picking and choosing or not just maybe sticking with the local elections, to really get involved and vote in every single type of election that comes up.
Sarah, where do you find that voters are particularly engaged? I mean, do we fall off the cliff a bit when it comes to referendums and those more international and European-led events?
It is really mixed, Sally-Ann, but yeah, we would see that maybe when we were voting in June in the local and European elections, there was some instances of where people would vote in their local election and then maybe they wouldn't have the same level of interest in the European election and they could leave that ballot paper empty. So it is around issues like that. But I mean, across the board, we think that we would really like to improve turnout, you know, in all of the different types of events. We have a presidential election coming up towards the end of this year, and we'd really like to see an improvement in the turnout.
It's a difficult one to gauge, though, I would imagine, Sarah, isn't it? Because, you know, when we heard Art O'Leary there, who's the leader of the Electoral Commission, speaking immediately, I suppose, after last November's general election, the register in particular, there's so much issues with the accuracy. So is our turnout really as bad as we think?
Yeah, that's the thing, Sally-Ann. It might not be The Electoral Commission are currently working on a report on the state of the electoral register. That will be published soon, and as part of that we will have some recommendations. I mean, I know that the local authorities are all working really hard to improve the electoral register, but it is just quite difficult to get the accuracy 100% on that. But I would look at this education strategy as kind of the flip side of that. If people understand how to join the register, that if you're moving from one county to another, you have to take yourself off and put yourself on the electoral register. If people engage more with the democratic processes, then the understanding will follow and those issues might not be as severe.
And what do you think is the main issue with that, Sarah? Are we all just a bit lazy when it comes to that, or is it the level of bureaucracy that's holding some people back? I mean, I suppose maybe particularly older voters, if it's a case that you have to be going onto a website, etc., that can put people off.
It can, Sally-Ann, yeah, but I mean, the onus is on the individual, and sometimes I think it's a lack of understanding or a lack of knowledge around that. And, I suppose, let's be honest, when you move house, it's not always the first thing you're thinking about. It's only when an electoral event comes up that you think, oh, maybe I need to re-register if you've moved county. But again, I think, with more education and with more information available to people, these sort of problems will start to lessen.
I'd like to get our listeners involved here at this point. If you're listening to this morning here on Midlands 103, do let me know what you think. You can text or WhatsApp me directly now on 083 30 10 103. Let's go to the education part of this role for you, Sarah. So I'm just casting my mind back to my own second level days. In terms of the democratic process, there was a little bit done in, I think it was CSP at the time. It's probably called something else now at this stage, but where we did a little bit of run through about, how you vote and what that means. So does there more need to be done in terms of our second level education and maybe at an earlier point to get this drilled into people for when they reach 18?
Well, I mean, this is exactly what we're asking. So there is still, it is still covered off in CPSE and secondary schools. But, it's a very full curriculum and maybe teachers don't always have the time or always have the ability to spend a lot of time on it. So we're looking for suggestions. And I mean, it's not just for new voters. We're casting the net wide here, Sally-Ann. We're focusing at the moment on secondary schools, but we're also looking at sort of adult and community education sector. We're hoping to engage with people who might be experiencing barriers to participation. I mean, as the Electoral Commission, we have met with immigrant organisations, travellers organisations, young people sometimes experience these barriers. And then finally, there is that sort of wider public engagement piece where you would look at large-scale sharing of information about the importance of voting and the importance of democratic engagement.
There is a mechanism, though, for those who are coming close to turning 18 to get themselves in the mix to get on the register. And is that widely known, Sarah? Can you explain this to us? And is that an element that you'll be encouraging?
Absolutely. And I'm really delighted to talk about this, Sally-Ann. There is an option for pre-registration. If you're 16 or 17, you can join the electoral register on checktheregister.ie, or you can go and fill in your form in your local authority. There's both options available there. But it means that if you turn 18 very close to an election, you're automatically able to vote. It means even if when you're turning 18, again, you might not think of it, you're already on the electoral register. So this pre-registration is something that isn't widely known about, but is really an excellent opportunity for our young people. And yeah, we would look maybe as part of any sort of educational program that we're doing, we would definitely be drawing attention to that potential to join the register as part of that.
Yeah, because at least once people are on the register, they have that choice to make. They go and make the effort to vote or they don't. But if you're not on the register at all, you don't get the choice.
No, that's it. Absolutely. And, there are some instances where people are maybe forget to update their details, or they are turning very close to an electoral event, and they're just not able to participate then when it comes around because of the timings.
In terms of how our particular electoral system works, obviously we're not first past the post. We have a bit more complicated of a system with PRSTV. Is that an area you'll be focusing on, Sarah, in terms of educating people on the full extent of how that actually rolls out on election day?
Yeah, it's something that's really, really important, and I think it's tricky to understand it, you know. So it is something definitely that we would hope to focus on. And again, we would absolutely encourage anyone who has any ideas on how to help us explain this, or, you know, if they have any sort of insight as to this is how I understood it, then we would be really grateful to hear about that. It is something that we will be focusing on, yes. It's something that's important because I think when you understand that and you can see that in action, the whole thing becomes much more interesting, and you understand the power of your vote and the power of your preferences as you move down through your preferences when you're voting.
Now, you mentioned in terms of how important it is to see that happening. Is that something that we maybe need to improve on? Is the transparency maybe of our democratic process when it comes to, you know, the day of the counts? I mean, it's gone to a stage now. I work in journalism, so I'm lucky. I'm usually in a count centre. I get to see firsthand the thrills and spills, how the whole thing unfolds. And I was very lucky this year. I was in Athlone Count Centre for the Longford Westmeath constituency, which went right through until the Monday morning. So you could see from 9 o'clock on Saturday morning exactly how the whole thing unfolded with all the different counts, what the different options were going to be, who needed to do what. But for a lot of the public, that isn't an option because now I suppose our count centres are ticketed. It's very much managed in a security sense. But the transparency of our democratic process for people to be able to see that, I mean, is that an element maybe that needs to be looked at a little bit closer?
Yeah, and I mean, they're exactly the type of suggestions that we are hoping will come through as part of this process, Sally-Ann. You know, I would say I myself in June at the local count here in Portlaoise, I was down at the count centre in Gings, and I saw on the Monday a local national school teacher had brought her class down. So these were sort of 10, 11, 12-year-olds who were in there looking at the whole process. And of course that's going to stick with them as they grow up and as they turn towards voting age. That sort of interest when it's peaked very young is definitely helpful. And the other thing about the transparency of it, you know, I think if we can see and we can understand how things work, then definitely there'll be better understanding, and from that a greater level of trust can grow as well, you know. I think at the moment sometimes there is some distrust in the system. Now, not very much in Ireland, thankfully, studies have shown, but it is something. Transparency is important, and again, because it leads to greater engagement and greater understanding.
Now, we've had a text in here to the studio. Rena in Tullamore has messaged in to say, I'm speaking with non-voting family and friends. Their issues range from total apathy, lack of interest, non-belief in what politicians say and actually do and get elected. They feel their vote won't change how things are run. They feel they're not heard when talking with politicians. I suppose that's an interesting take. The only thing I would say there is certainly absolutely zero chance of your vote changing anything if you don't bother casting it in the first place, Sarah.
So that's absolutely, and the way our system works with PRSTV, if I don't vote, then my beliefs or my choices can't be represented on a national or a European level. What I would say to Lena as well is, though, like, we absolutely want to hear from people who don't. We want to understand why they don't vote or why they're not engaging, because then we, as part of that, you know, we can ask them, or we have two very simple questions in our public consultation. Why, or what would make it more inviting or more interesting for them to get involved? And even if that is things like political engagement, or, you know, we can take all of this on board, and from our consultation, we will be coming up with some sort of very practical and interesting education and information programs that will help people, or maybe will engage people more that currently don't vote or have stopped voting or have lost interest in the system. But we need to get the feedback from the public to really understand what the issues are and aren't.
All right, Sarah. Well, the consultation runs until Monday, the 24th of March. Before we go, can you tell people if they want to make a submission, how do they do that?
So our submission is at www.electoralcommission.ie/consultation. You can. We have 2 questions. It's quite a quick process if you want it to be. We also accept submissions in writing or on our website. You can upload video notes or voice notes. So we really want this to be absolutely accessible for everyone. So you can participate in any form whatsoever, and we would love to hear from you.
All right, Sarah Keaveney, Head of Education and Engagement with An Commission Tábhachtán, joining us live in the programme from Portlaoise this morning. Sarah, thank you so much. OK, well, if you have an opinion, do please let me know. Text or WhatsApp us on 083 30 10 103. Coming up after our break, we'll be talking about, given the weekend that's in it, I don't want to get too soppy, but what is the greatest love story ever told? Well, let's turn to one of our local librarians to find out. You're listening to the Saturday View here on Midlands 103. The time now, it is 10:24. Right now, it is 6 degrees in Ballymore, County Westmeath.
Saturday View, with thanks to Lumcloon Energy, pioneering innovation, powering progress. LumcloonEnergy.com.
You are welcome back to the Saturday View with me, Sally-Ann Barrett. It's 10:26 here now. Lots still to come before we end the show at 11 today. A bit later on, we'll be talking about culture and Irish in the GAA here in Offaly. So do stay tuned with us for that. Now, at the top of the show this morning, I did ask you, I'm going to be coming back on the 8th of March, Saturday the 8th of March, for a special International Women's Day edition of the Saturday View. And I'm asking for you, the listener, to give me ideas about maybe women or women's groups that stand out in the region that we should maybe feature on the programme that day. Already Anne in Mountmellick rang in to tell Nellie that I could feature Mountmellick Lace. So thank you, Anne, for going to the trouble of ringing in. She was speaking to Nellie there on 0818 300 103. Or you could text me with your own ideas now on 083 30 10 103. Well, given the weekend that's in it, what is the greatest love story ever told? That is the question that Laois County Libraries have been asking its followers on social media this week as the debate over the books that could compete for that title continues. Is a classic romance number one among readers in the region, or is there a hidden gem that might be worth settling down with this weekend? Well, I'm delighted to be joined on the show this morning by Laurie Moriarty, who's Library Assistant with Laois County Council based at Abbey Leaks Library. Good morning, Laurie.
Morning, Sally-Ann. Thanks for having me.
Not at all. We're delighted to have you on the programme, Laurie. And I know this was put up on the Laois County Library social media this week. I saw it and I thought, what a great question to ask this weekend. I'm hoping you're the woman that's going to help us answer it.
I hope so.
Where do we start? Should we start with the classics, Laurie? I mean, what have people been saying in terms of the response to that social media post?
In terms of classics, it was really interesting because a lot of people came back with very different types of romance books, which I think was really interesting. So we had one person say Persuasion by Jane Austen, which is, I have to say, a lot of people talk about Pride and Prejudice with Jane Austen, but Persuasion is the ultimate romance book, as far as I'm concerned anyway. But we also got things like The Thornbirds by Colleen McCullough. We got The End of the Affair by Graham Greene, which is quite sad. And also One Day by David Nichols. So there was such a range of answer. It was really interesting.
I think the funny part about this is as well, so many of them have been made into TV or film adaptations. That's maybe where a lot of people would be more familiar with them.
I think so, and I think as a genre, it really does lend itself to the screen, and it's something I think where romance books are all about life and how we relate to people and relationships, and society. And I think we're just drawn to those stories naturally. So it's lovely to see them on the screen as well.
I have to say, palpable relief that the likes of 50 Shades of Grey didn't make the list, Laurie.
Look, do you know what? It has its place. There's something for everyone.
On a shelf down the back somewhere. Oh, great. Oh, well, I'm glad to see Jane Austen. Now, I would have thought Wuthering Heights would have maybe made it onto the list somewhere, but no?
I think Wuthering Heights, initially, I think a lot of people would have said Wuthering Heights. But I think with more kind of readers that might be kind of discovering the Brontes and things like that, I think Heathcliff doesn't sit as well with maybe our modern sensibilities or that relationship, because it's super stormy.
Yeah, it's
very
a dark,
dramatic.
Yeah, it's a dark read in parts. I actually reread it there a couple of years ago, after reading it probably in school and college and stuff. But when you go back and you reread it, I suppose with a more mature mind, you do find a lot of more darkness in it than maybe picked up initially.
Yeah, absolutely. But then again, there is a popularity in like romance books with like those darker themes, and you can see it with the popularity of authors like Colleen Hoover, and some of the themes she might address in her books. So, I mean, again, as I said, like all these books have a place kind of on a shelf.
Yeah, absolutely. And can I ask you, before we move from the classics, specifically about Persuasion by Jane Austen? When I was looking, now I haven't read that one, I have to admit. That was one that was published after her death, and that's the one that you would pinpoint as a really good read.
That is such a good read. Just from the point of view, it's a little bit more mature, but like the comedy is still there. You know how sharp and kind of scathing Jane Austen can be. Mm-hmm. It's all in there, but the love story in it, there is a letter in that book that will just change the way your brain functions and what you consider love to be. And it is the ultimate declaration kind of letter, as far as I'm concerned, in a book. And it's everything. So yeah, Persuasion for me is definitely number one in Jane Austen.
You also highlighted North and South there by Elizabeth Gaskell, based, I suppose, around a time of Industrial Revolution. Can you give us an idea what's involved in that one?
Again, North and South is really interesting because it is dealing with kind of the rise of factories and factory workers. And it's interesting in that Elizabeth Gaskell would have been great friends with Charlotte Bronte specifically and wrote a biography of Charlotte Bronte. But her book is really, it features lower class people. It's a mix. It's how the lines between social classes start to blur and the friendships between classes. And in the book, there's like a self-made man, and he becomes kind of the hero of the book. And it's one of the first times that kind of happens in literature and in the romance genre. And it is a brilliant book as well. It's absolutely fabulous. I feel like I'll say that a lot throughout this interview.
Very swoony, I believe. Very swoony, that one in particular.
So swoony. It really is. It's fabulous. It really is.
So let's move from the classics then to something a bit more contemporary, and particularly Irish contemporary romance authors. Is there any recommendations you'd make for us on that front, Laurie, that could be a good pick this weekend?
Oh, this weekend there are so many really good authors writing in the genre at the moment, and we have younger authors like Joseph Murray. He's just there last year. He came out with a book called Hitched. And if you just want a really good, really funny read, that is a great one. It's about a bride who goes from Ireland to Las Vegas on her hen party and accidentally meets up with an ex-love of hers. So it's like a mixture of the movie Bridesmaids and...
without the food poisoning, I hope.
Yes, yeah. Minus the food poisoning scene, yeah. Because, so there's authors like him. Authors like Chloe Walsh have become super popular, especially online at the moment. She has a series of books based around a rugby team and a private college in Cork called The Boys of Thomond. And they have kind of really gotten super popular, especially amongst kind of readers in their 20s, early 30s. So those books have gotten massive there lately. But there's authors like Kathy Kelly and Emma Hetherington and so many authors like that, Claudia Carroll, who are so established in the genre now as well. And they're still so popular. They always go out weekly from the library I work in.
So you may need to get on the app and pre-book if you're looking to hope to get some of those. And another genre, a new genre that I haven't heard this, romantasy. Tell us about that, Laurie.
Romantasy. So this is fantasy books. So it's all about building another world, not kind of based in our own, but with some kind of familiar points, but with a strong romance throughout the book or the series. So authors like Sarah J. Maas have really become super popular. I think her series, A Court of Thorn and Roses, that is being developed for television at the moment. But as well, people like Rebecca Yarr's Fourth Wing, that's a book with dragons in it. They've really gripped people's imaginations. And I think it is, the romance is there, but it's taking you out of your own world.
Mm-hmm.
And I think sometimes that's what we all need as well. And it's really interesting because a lot of these books, especially by American authors, kind of draw on Irish mythology and the idea of like the fae or the fairies. And we do have Claire Wright, who is an independently published author, and she has her own series called A Realm of Lore and Lies, and it's based around like the Fina and all these heroes that we've grown up kind of learning about. And she's done her own complete twist on it. So her series is brilliant as well.
So it sounds like that's the kind of genre for those of us who might like our Game of Thrones books or J.R.R. Tolkien's, you know, those kind of other worlds, but more of the love story element of it.
Exactly, yeah. And they really do what they do so well, because especially with the popularity we've seen with Fourth Wing is kind of everywhere. Like the third book was just released, Onyx Storm, and I couldn't turn on the internet, but everyone was speaking about it, and we had people coming into the library looking for copies of it. So it's hugely popular.
Oh, wow. So a few more recommendations you have for us for different authors, and some of them the likes of Jilly Cooper as well. Now, if you like your romance books with a bit more, I suppose, action. Is that how we'll push it, Laurie?
A little bit of spice, yes.
Okay. Yeah, so take us through a few you'd like to recommend for listeners this morning.
So I think for anyone who enjoys that kind of enemies to lovers storyline that you might find in things like Pride and Prejudice, definitely Sally Thorne's The Hating Game is one of the best examples of that kind of trope in books. That's set with two kind of workers in a publishing firm who are enemies, do the same job, have the same role, and they just absolutely loathe each other in the book. So that's great fun. I did recommend Jilly Cooper actually and Rivals, given the popularity of the television show. And I think Jilly Cooper is someone of a time. Definitely. Some of the things mightn't fit as well with modern readers, but she really, it's kind of like Jane Austen. She picks a group of people in a very specific setting. So instead of it being in like a small parish in Derbyshire in England, it's a television station, and the interactions and the politics and the sarcasm that she has is so enjoyable.
And a good holiday read. Yeah, a good holiday read. Like her books.
Ultimate.
Yeah, they're enjoyable. You don't have to think too much. There isn't too much pressure if you just want an enjoyable, light-hearted read.
Exactly, yeah. And it is about the humour with Jilly Cooper as well. All her descriptions, even her kind of more spicy parts of the book, it's all done with humour. So I think that is something that appeals to people as well.
Now, we do have a number of Irish Mills and Boons authors, the likes of Catherine Tinley, Abby Green, Karen Bain, Lynn Graham, etc. But there's a few authors that will fit in somewhere in this genre that we cannot not mention this morning. The first of them being Maeve Binchy. I loved all of her books.
Wasn't she? She was just amazing. And I do think it happens sometimes that people move away from authors a little bit. And I think Maeve Binchy is just, I know there is a festival dedicated to her in Dublin, but she is well overdue, a resurgence, because her books are timeless. And they really are. There is always something you can recognise in her books. And her stories are just so warm. There's a warmth that you won't get with other authors. And it just comes so naturally in her writing. Maeve Binchy is absolute classic as far as I'm concerned. Yeah.
So Circle of Friends is one in particular there, but also then, Edna O'Brien, who sadly passed away, I think it was just last year.
Yeah, and I think she really fits in, especially they talk about new categories in romance, and one of them is the new adults. So books that talk to people who are moving from the teenage years into growing responsibilities and awareness about the society you live in. I think Edna O'Brien just really captures that. And her books mightn't be romance per se. They're more almost like courtship books, which I think things like Sally Rooney, people like Sally Rooney, Anisha Dolan, it's those early relationships and how formative they can be, and your growing awareness of who you are in your society. So they mightn't be completely swoony, but I think they do have a place in the genre at the same time.
Yeah, so there's a lot to recommend there. Sally Rooney, Edna O'Brien, Maeve Binchy also as well. So if people want to get involved with the library finally, Laurie, I mean, it's very simple nowadays. And of course, we know the fines are gone. So if people want to go in and start reserving things, it's pretty easy to do at this stage.
It really is. Yeah, you can go on through the national website, Libraries Ireland. You can sign up for membership online. It really is. It has become so much more streamlined. It's brilliant, and it makes it so much more accessible for people. But also next week, the 22nd of February, is Ireland Reads Day. And it's just the day that we nationally encourage people to read for 10 minutes or an hour or however long you can. And you can do that. There's an Ireland Reads website, and as well, all of the libraries across the country are going to have different events on that day with some amazing authors. I know Portlaoise have Andrea Mara and Amanda Cassidy are coming down. In Abbey Leaks, we're going to have Ellen Ryan, who is writing about Irish mythology and legends. So we're really looking forward to her coming to the library. But there's events on everywhere, so it's actually going to be a really exciting day to call into the library. So if you aren't a member, it's a great day to call in.
All right. Laurie Moriarty, Library Assistant with Laois County Council based at Abbey Leaks Library. Thank you so much for that and all the recommendations you kindly shared with us this morning. What do you think? Let me know. Text or WhatsApp now on 083 30 10 103. We're going to take a quick break, but when we come back, culture and the Irish language in Offaly GAA.
Saturday View, with thanks to Lumcloon Energy, pioneering innovation, powering progress. LumcloonEnergy.com.
You're welcome back to the Saturday View here on Midlands 103 with me, Sally-Ann Barrett. We're with you all the way until 11 a.m, where Lorraine McGovern will be taking over the hot seat. Lots of you have been in contact with me this morning on 0818 300 103 or 083 30 10 103. In response to our first item this morning, we were speaking to Sarah Keaveney from Uncommissioned Taucon about this campaign to try and get more of us engaged in the democratic process. We've had a message in from one of our listeners to say, "Morning, Sally-Ann. During the European elections, I was shocked at the total disinterest in democracy and the voting by those under 30. They really weren't interested. I'm 63. I had civil studies in school in 1977, which covered rights, politics, democracy and voting. I feel the young are very disillusioned for some reason." So that's what one of our texters has to say. On the other side of that, I've had a WhatsApp message in to say, "Good morning, Sally-Ann. You were talking about voting and young people not voting voting. My granddaughter turned 18 last November and she couldn't wait to get her name on the register in time for the last election. That comes in from Ina. Well, Ina, I am very glad to hear that. That is great news. If you have anything else to let us know about, do please let me know. I have been asking for your recommendations for our International Women's Day programme, which will be coming your way here on Midlands 103 on Saturday the 8th of March. Already a number of you have sent me lists and names for women's groups and women from this region that you'd like to hear on air that day. So I am taking key notes here. Let me guarantee you, listeners, taking key notes, and I'll be going through that after the programme today. So don't forget, that's going to be a great programme on the 8th of March. But now, are you ready to deliver an entertaining recitation, sing a song that reflects the culture of your county, or maybe dance a set for the glory of your club? Well, if so, Offaly GAA are looking for you. The search is on for clubs to enter Score Sinshare, the senior score competition, which is just around the corner on the 1st of March in Coolderry Community Hall. And to tell us a little bit about what's involved and what's happening generally in culture in Offaly GAA at the moment, I'm delighted to be joined in studio by Niamh Clark, who is the Irish Cultural Officer with Offaly GAA. Niamh, good morning.
Good morning, Sally-Ann.
Thanks so much for coming in to us. Don't be afraid of that mic. It won't bite,
That's
I
okay.
promise.
Thanks a million for having me in this morning.
Not at all. Niamh, I suppose firstly, tell us a little bit about your role with the County Board here in Offaly, Irish Cultural Officer. So what responsibility falls for you in this?
I have responsibility for promoting culture, Irish culture and the Irish language within the county. So that will involve promoting Gaeilge in the clubs throughout the county and then encouraging clubs to get involved in score, both senior score and score in Oak.
Okay.
Yeah,
because there's a number of score competitions. There's under 18. So what's coming up on the 1st of March, in Coolderry Community Hall is for the senior members.
It is. So it's for any club members over the age of 17.
Okay.
And so we'll have age ranges from 17 up to unlimited ages.
Okay.
There is no age limit. And we're just looking for clubs to engage in score and to bring a bit more life back to score in Offaly. There's a lot of work after been done over the last few years, and we're getting great success in Offaly at an All-Ireland level. So that's what we're looking for, new clubs to get involved as well as the clubs that are currently involved.
So we better tell people a little bit about what's involved in the competition now. I, unfortunately, for my sins, have quite a familiarity with score in my own county of Galway. I would have competed when I was younger, and I suppose we've always been familiar. It was very strong in Galway. We used to have like local events, then, even regional events within the county before you got to the county at all. So we'd love to see that coming back within the counties, that there's such a strong competition. There's different genres, different competitions. Mm-hmm. Can you tell us and take us through what people can sign up for?
Absolutely. So there's several, like you said, several categories, including figure dancing, solo singing, recitation, ballad group, instrumental music, set dancing, and the quiz and the novelty act.
Now, she said all that without a piece of paper sitting in front of her. Well done, Niamh. I was looking at the 8 of them here.
Like you, Sally-Ann, I've been involved in score since I was 11 years of age.
Right.
With my own club in County Dublin.
Okay.
So, and then I have been cultural officer with Tullamore GAA for the last 6 years. So I have a huge interest in score and keeping that side of the GAA alive and thriving.
Yeah.
So, it's just such a fun thing to be part of. I know my formative years were full of score memories, taking part in the figure dancing, the ballad group, the set dancing, and then all our friends playing the music alongside us and having a bit of a crack with the novelty act, which is a short sketch, and it kind of incorporates current affairs, a bit of history, a bit of fun, and that side of the Irish culture.
Yeah, and what I love about score is, and I genuinely feel it's so important for GAA, is, not everybody wants to be involved in the team and on the field, but there is genuinely so many options when it comes to the likes of these competitions. You don't have to be a singer. If you are, great, go into the solo
Absolutely.
singing.
Yeah.
But if you want to do your recitation and give your all in that, you want to go into the table quiz.
Well, that's it. Our clubs are full of people who are fantastic singers, dancers, actors, and have a wealth of knowledge for the quiz teams. So when there's an off season, or there's a very short off season, you know, now. But even for people who are not sports inclined, there's so many siblings and parents that are part of the GAA that love to get involved, and this is their avenue to get involved in their club and in the GAA through this, you know, showing off their talents in different areas, not on the field.
And I know you mentioned to me when we spoke about this before the interview that Offaly has a long and proud history when it comes to score.
Yeah, absolutely. We have done extremely well in recent years and in the past. Currently, we have the All Ireland champions from the Barrett figure dancers, and they have won it 3 times, the All Ireland, and they're a superb standard to look up to. You know, and they're an amazing group of girls, ladies, should I say, not girls. And we've had success in the ballad groups as well over the years, with Clara and Furban doing really, really well. Ballymere have a mighty ballad group at the minute as well. And of course, solo singers, you know, there's a good history of solo singers along the year as well. I can't go without mentioning the Derry quiz team. They're superb, and congratulations to them. Lately, they came second in the All Ireland Gaeilge Tránageist,
yes,
in Croke Park recently. So, you know, you learn so much from them and from the successes that they have. To if other clubs could see their success, they'd be able to emulate that. You know?
Yeah, and the good news is if you make it all the way to the All Ireland, if you get through your provincial, which again is another big hoop to get through, but if you get to the INEC in Killarney, I watched it live on the laptop from at home last year.
I always do as well.
It's an absolutely fantastic night of talent.
Yeah, no, it's amazing. I was at Scoring and Oak final in Monaghan there a couple of weeks ago, and again, like, the hall was packed. There was probably 700-800 people in that hall, and to see the level of talent on the stage from young people, you know, and the likewise, you'll see that again in the INEC in Killarney. You know, well, it's not actually in Killarney this year. You know, it's in Mayo this year. So
even less of a trip. So that's great. Yeah.
So it's in Castlebar. So it's great. It's an absolute fantastic part or organisation to be part of, you know, to be part of Score.
Quickly before we tell people if they want to put in their clubs, or if they have ideas for people who'd like to take part, just to touch a little bit on, I suppose, increasing the use of Irish is also a part of your role in terms of clubs within the county. How are you hoping to do that, Niamh?
Well, first off, I'm a Gaeilgeoir myself, you know, and I have a passion for the Irish language. And I know through the GAA, Glór na Gael have a fantastic scheme called An Fundóra Seosamh Ag Donncha, the Joe McDonagh Foundation. It was set up several years ago to help promote Gaeilge in the clubs. And you can enter the award side of it, but you don't necessarily have to enter the award to promote your language. And they have a framework where clubs can follow and choose any out of the steps that they have to promote the language. So choose 10 when the first year, you know, and see how you go about that and add to it each year. And it could be as simple as making sure that the name of your club is on the jerseys as Gaeilge, and I think every club has that.
Yeah, or even signage around your grounds.
Absolutely. Just say Faultis Jock or a Slán.
Or Shuppa.
Yeah, Shuppa is there. Yeah, we have the Shuppa Gurram up in Dr. Kelly's field here for the Camogie Club. And, you know, even like on O'Connor Park, that it's Parky Crohor, and that, you know, that there's a visual language there as well, and it's not a language from the classroom. It's a live language.
Yeah, a living language. Yeah.
So like you could have a pop Gaeltacht before games, you know, where you can have a cup on tea and just to have a bit of a chat and use your cúpa focal that you have, and not to be afraid to even just come in and listen to people.
Yeah, I like the sound of that, and if there's tea and cake, why not? Absolutely. Niamh, before we go this morning, if people want to get involved in Score in County Offaly that's coming up on the 1st of March, it's on in Coolderry Community Hall, how do they do that or get more information? So
they can contact me directly on the phone on 086 3628 760, or they can email me at irishculturalofficer.offaly@gaa.ie. Now, entries have to be in by the 27th of February.
Okay. So 27th of February is the cut-off, and like we said, there's 8 disciplines in Score covering all aspects: figure, dancing, solo singing, ballad group, the recitation, which is always great crack, novelty act, again great crack, instrumental music, set dancing, and the table quiz. So plenty for people to get involved in there. Niamh, the very best of luck in your role, and the very best of luck to Offaly and the surrounding counties when it comes to senior Score.
And it's a pleasure to be here, and thank you for the opportunity to promote Score.
Not at all. Niamh Clark there joining us, who is Irish Cultural Officer with Offaly GAA. Well, we're coming to the end of the programme here on the Saturday View this morning. Coming up next, it will be Feel Good Saturday with Lorraine McCormick. Don't forget, I've been asking you for your recommendations on that special International Women's Day programme I'll be presenting on Saturday, the 8th of March. If you do have ideas of people that I could feature on the programme that day, or maybe interviews you'd like to hear from prominent women, or maybe tell the story of women from the past in the Midlands region, do let me know now. You can text and WhatsApp those into 083 30 10 103, or you can still call Nellie, who has very kindly been taking your calls for me all morning, on 0818 300 103. But for now, I am going to lead it up to the news at 11 o'clock. Whatever you're doing this weekend, I hope you have a great weekend. It is still Valentine's weekend officially, so don't be afraid to spoil yourself. But for me, Sally Ann Barrett, that's it for this morning.